For more on big tech and the U.S. government, we're joined live by Seth Berenzweig. He's the founder and managing partner of Berenzweig Leonard. He's also an expert on technology law and data privacy. Welcome back to the show.
Pleasure to be back.
So as you look at everything that went down, what were the main takeaways and highlights from the hearing?
Well, it was certainly a lot of fireworks and a lot of political theater. What we're seeing essentially is the first phase of a new war between the federal government in Washington and big tech. And that battle was on full display today in the Senate. What we saw was a lot of back and forth between the senators and the CEOs on the core issue of whether the federal law should be changed to not give so much liability protection for big tech, for these companies. And it centers on these complaints by, for example, Senator Ted Cruz, that they're doing a very bad job in terms of content control and moderation. So that was a very interesting exchange, and I'm glad that you played that because it really shows what one of the main problems of big tech is experiencing right now. Although it was frankly political theater, and I don't think that the United States Congress itself has done a very good job in terms of creating meaningful rules. Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, had an absolutely horrible answer there. And in fact, he went on to try to suggest that they're not posting this story about the so-called Hunter Biden laptop wasn't because of a genuine belief that it was fake news, but that instead they had some kind of anti-hacking policy. They were really all over the place. It was very scattered, and it continues to demonstrate that these big tech companies in Silicon Valley have absolutely no specific plan, no transparency, and no real care or ability to be able to keep social media from being weaponized, especially as we're heading into the elections that are just days away here.
And we do tend to see a lot of this apologizing and calls for transparency, but a lot of people are wondering if that's actually going to translate into anything. Now, it's interesting because reining in or restructuring certain Silicon Valley tech giants seems to be one of the few things that Democrats and Republicans agree on, although not always for the same reasons. Why is that?
Well, that's exactly right. Smashing big tech is one of the very few things here in Washington that Republicans and Democrats both agree on. But I think the reason for the differences is because they have different ideologies and different paths on how to get to the problem. The Democrats want to break up big tech. They want to take a sledgehammer and they want to break up the companies into smaller fragments. The Republicans see it as a very different issue. They believe that in terms of content management, that these big tech companies are inherently biased against Republican ideals and ideology, and they're very mad about that, and they want to regulate it in a different way. Quite frankly, I think that there are drawbacks to both of those approaches, and I would prefer that Congress focus more on meaningful data protection and election security, so both the government and big tech can do a better job. And frankly, I don't really see any significant leadership from either the public sector or the private sector.
Now, it does seem as if Silicon Valley is seen as this monolith, but obviously there are different supporters and different factions within it. So how would you characterize President Trump's relationship with Silicon Valley?
Not very good. I think that through the president's own eyes and lens, he views them as a monolithic creature that is really out to get him and to try to block stories and block news feeds that will be more likely to tend to get him elected. And frankly, I think that's a little bit of a stretch because he has really been over time, and including in 2016, a huge beneficiary of social media and Twitter. But he really views it with suspicion. And I think that you can also see that playing out in another case that's right here in Washington, D.C., in the U.S. federal court, in a case where the administration is in a legal battle with TikTok, the Chinese company, where the Trump administration is trying to shut down TikTok by November 12th. That is another battle that's playing here in Washington, D.C., and they're really going head-to-head in that new case as we speak.
So to that point then, what does Trump want from China in terms of a tech relationship?
Well, that's a great question, and I think that he's been less than clear. But for the most part, his pronouncements have made it clear that he believes that China, through companies such as TikTok, are engaging in an unfair practice of data collection and private data security breaches by taking information from individuals in corporate America and using that allegedly for illegal purposes, such as corporate espionage and trying to feed social media with false messages. So he wants China to step back from that. Of course, China disputes that, but at the end of the day, this is an issue that can be controlled by either the United States Congress or by big tech companies in the private sector. And now we're still in a situation where the social media world is being weaponized, and there's really still no meaningful approach or cure, as we're only days away from the election. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens, and if President Biden is going to be our next president in January, and we'll wait and see, he will probably take over the Google case, and will also be moving forward. So this is a battle that's going to continue.
All right, well, always good to see you. Seth Berenzweig there, founder and managing partner of Berenzweig Leonard, an expert on technology law and data privacy. Thank you so much.
You bet.